Region Review.
The Raging Cajuns will be a source of pride for this university, for the alumni, fans, and donors as we achieve success in the classroom, in the competitive arena, and in the community.
It's about to get really fun.
We're looking for dudes that will stand up. Well, Coach, let me tell you today, I'm here and I'm ready to stand up. And I challenge you, Raging Cajun Nation, to stand up with us. Stand up with us. Let's lock hand in hand and let's walk through the gates of Omaha.
Hey, I love y'all boys. Let's grind every day starting today. Let's do it. Y'all ready? Alert! Ready? Who's that team ready? Who's that team ready? Yes, sir.
I got one thing to say right here. Cajuns win!
Everybody, welcome back to the Raging Review podcast on a victory Thursday night. Cajuns do indeed win. And that was a nice one. Especially when you got Megan losing money, talking down on Twitter. What was that about? I thought she was a Louisiana girl. She's got purple and puke all over her profile. What was that about? I thought she was one of us.
That's part of the problem, man. People don't take pride of where they're from. So we're going to go kiss the ass of the school, 10 miles down the street instead of supporting the hometown team that you grew up in the same city as. That's weak.
She lives like Broussard. Megan losing money. You'll always be known to me as Megan losing money. And of course I trolled her.
Well, she lost
Twitter.
money tonight, so
damn right she did. That's right.
Bowing down to that tiger statue. Bowing down.
But let's not spend too much time on that. Megan losing money is really not important. Great victory. 36-17 over a team that has been scoring on everybody. Couldn't score on us. This is the defense that we've all known. I mean, when the offense plays complementary football, this is what we can expect from these guys. Campadesclo was an absolute monster. If anybody was keeping tabs, that was awesome to watch. Zion Hillgreen didn't quite break the record, but he was a monster in the backfield. Defensive line was awesome. Jordan Quibb, he did come out. I think it was the third quarter. I don't know if he played very much after that. Hope he's good. But Joe Osai made a lot of plays. The secondary was as good as we know they can be. Defense overall played fantastic. Gave up 17 to a team that's, again, flirting with that 30 points a game mark. What can you say? Coming into this game, Georgia Southern was at the top of the country in third down conversions at 56%. They went 2 for 14 tonight in the Swamp. So there's a couple of things that we can jump off of. Jerry, in the stadium, good time. I know we reported 11-5 or something like that. Not exactly what we expected, but we'll get into the promotions that we talked about today and yesterday. But before that, thoughts on the crowd. I thought they were involved at least, and they cared, so that's important.
They were involved. It was actually pretty loud from where we were sitting. I'm actually kind of surprised by the number. I thought there was a little bit more. I would have said somewhere between 14 and 15,000. The student section, the students showed out a lot better than last week. Was it good enough? I don't want to yank their chains too much and say they could have had a little bit more, but compared to the last few games, it was a lot better. So, we'll talk about the promotions as time goes on, but if there's anything that we got out of this, it's plan in advance of plan ahead of the season instead of the last week and a 5-day turnaround. And you saw what that blitzkrieg of promotions did right away, but do that type of promotions in May of the year leading into the football season. And I guarantee you will see more people there. And that includes on campus as well. But just a great night tonight. I thought that, really all I was thinking was where has this team been all year? If this team would have played like this all year as they did tonight, you might be looking at a team that's 7-3 or 8-2 instead of 5-5. But I will give credit where credit is due. They didn't quit. The last 2 games have been very disappointing. A lot of teams fold and call it a season, and they just say, the heck with it. We'll just finish. It's not a big deal. We don't care. This team didn't do that. They came out with a vengeance tonight, and they took care of business. And so I'm actually excited to see what they can do going into Florida State next week. I'm actually excited to see if they can become bowl eligible and hopefully make a run. If there's anything I learned about this team tonight is they do not quit in spite of, having the roller coaster ride of the season that they've had so far. And what a way to go out for those seniors. Just a great way to finish their careers at Cajun Field. Couldn't say anything more than that. Just a great game overall. Now, in my opinion, probably the best game, maybe next to Marshall, the best game we've played all year.
Well, it's the most complete game to me that we've played all
Absolutely.
season.
Perfect.
No question
Perfectly
about
said.
it. No question about it.
Because we've shown flashes, like we dominated ULM for half a game and then crapped the bed. We dominated Troy and then crapped the bed. But this game, it never really felt like I was holding my breath, even though they came within 2 scores where they had to score, 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions. I never felt like it was an issue because we completely dominated their defense. And I was surprised. Look, I knew they had a poor defense, 129 out of 130, but we exposed them tonight. And offensively, I think, again, for Georgia Southern, as good as they've been all season, for our defense to show up and dominate them as much as they did was impressive. And look, they came out as a team that knows they have to win 2 games to get to a bowl game. And I don't know if there was a come to Jesus meeting. I don't know if Chris Smith threw his helmet at people after last week's game. I don't know what happened, but the team that came out today, if Kyle's listening, Kyle, call in, tell us how we pushed him around, because he's been waiting for that. He's been waiting for us to push somebody around, punch him in the mouth. We did that tonight. We showed what we're capable of. And look, Florida State, that's going to be a big mountain to climb. I'm going to enjoy this game tonight. But I tell you what, if this team comes out against Florida State, it's going to be a fun, competitive game. I'm not going to predict a win. We could win. I expect to win. I guarantee you the guys in the locker room expect to win. But I'm going to enjoy this. I look forward to the next game. And if they play like they did tonight against Florida State, that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm going to take a break on the whole attendance thing. Like, we punted last Saturday, I guess, because the other team was playing across the basin. I don't know what the hell went on with promotions there, but if we would have been doing what we did today and yesterday and the day before that, if we'd have been doing that all year, which, by the way, is how promotions work, it's a cumulative effect. I don't know. I don't know what we would have gotten. I don't care what the number is. Hell, I don't even know if they scanned our tickets. I mean, we had 4 walk in the gate, and I think maybe 1 got scanned. So whatever.
I'm
doesn't
over
matter.
it, man.
I'm over it.
Let's figure it out next year.
This is why I'm over it, because it's over. This is the last home game. It's a Thursday night. I'm there to watch football anyway. The only reason I even complain about attendance is because it makes us look bad. Tonight, we're on ESPN2. At least we sounded somewhat into the game as far as our fan base goes. Our football team showed up and looked like a competent football team. What did we not do well? I don't know what Ben's stats are, and we're probably going to be a little bit more stat heavy in this post game because I know you all hollered at me last time about not talking about the game. So we'll talk about stats a little bit more, but I mean, Kenny Almendaris is probably your MVP. I mean, he made big kicks in that second half that really put Georgia Southern behind the 8 ball. Even when they started to move the football, we answered with at least 3. So shout out to that entire team, the whole field goal team. They did a fantastic job. So special teams was good. Eric Guerra was good. Kickoff coverage was good. Defense was the defense we've seen all season. This is not a surprise. Offensive line was good, especially in that first half. I think Chris Smith went for like 12 carries and 90 yards, something like that. Terrence Williams was good. Washington seemed healthy and spry. We look good. Ben had a couple of keepers around the edge, which we sealed all night long when we needed to. Jacob Bernard was Jacob Bernard. I'm convinced now that Jacob Bernard is probably our most gritty wide receiver on a football team. Raw talent probably goes to a couple of other guys, but as far as grit and making plays happen, I'm looking for Jacob Bernard. I mean, that touchdown catch was fantastic.
That's a Sports Center top 10 play. I mean, I didn't think he I didn't know he caught it. Like, I thought it was a drop. I thought the ball hit the ground, and you look at it, and he actually caught it with that dive. Outstanding effort there.
Outstanding effort, and that's what we've always wanted. All we need is that effort. You look at the defensive line tonight, dominated for 3 quarters. Mason Narcisse got the fumble, and if he was a little bit faster, may have scored. There's not a whole lot to complain about tonight outside of the 11-5 that they announced.
I have one.
What are you're gonna complain about the Looney Tunes, aren't you?
No, I am not. I'm gonna
Well,
let
I
you
will.
do
So
that.
you go ahead. I'll
You
complain about
can
it.
do that, but I will say this: I had the chance to meet a few of our listeners at halftime, and it was really cool to meet. It's always cool to meet our listeners in person, and we had some good conversations. And one of our listeners has a spouse who works for the university, and I'm not going to get too much into detail of where they are, but a particular department had an event tonight going on while at the same time during the game. So uh, all I'm going to say about that is not necessarily I'm going to make a complaint, but it goes back to what I said before the season starts. Make sure you know when these games are and make sure you plan around the game or vice versa. Plan all of this in advance to where you're not running into conflict of debating whether or not you should go to the game or go to these events, especially if it's a campus sponsored event. Um, I hope that the administration has taken a lot of notes and gotten a lot of information based on these attendance numbers. I hope that now they can go into the offseason with a fresh slate. Like you said, it's over now. We had our 6 home games, it's done. But there's a lot of data and there's a lot of sample size to go around to where guys like, our new deputy athletic director, Trey Frazier, and a few others who have come in to the mix can have to work on going into the offseason with these numbers and with the lack of support that we had this year, because it was disappointing. I'm going to admit it was very disappointing. And I think Lafayette can do better. The university can do better. We can all do better to make Cajun Field a dangerous place to play. So hopefully we've got 8 or 9 months to work on that before next season. Come up with a plan. Heck, start now and just.
Well, the plan is to knock over the tower. That's the plan.
You know what my plan is? Beat Florida State.
Beat Florida
That
State.
is all I care about today.
The fight in
beat
Norvell's.
Florida State. That's all
it.
I care about. I don't
That's
care
all I
about
care about,
attendance.
too.
I'm
Same.
tired of talking about attendance.
Look,
We'll
you
talk
can-
about that after
hey,
the season.
y'all- look.
We shot our shot last week. We kicked some ass, and maybe it helped and maybe it didn't, but who cares? We're moving on. We're on to the Fighting Norvells. And Jerry, before you finish, I'll let you go. Christian, this is one of the reasons why we need a renovation. I did not get your correspondence after I sent you the last response because I don't have any reception inside the stadium.
Because with 11,000 fans, that overruns the,
Yes.
the cell towers, apparently.
I had 4 koozies for you, and I was going to give them to you. I promise you I will make that happen. If you plan on going to the LSU scrimmage on Sunday, I will be there. Show up, you get your koozies, and then we'll call it even. So my bad on that. But again, I internet service provider and reception, I can't control. So my bad. But look, you had the stunt dogs tonight, which the kids loved. The older folks loved. The stunt dogs were sick. It was cool. And then we went into the Looney Tunes. Inspector Gadget. We played the exact same show that we played last week. Did y'all see?
No, I didn't, thankfully, because I was getting drinks at halftime.
I told Jerry, I said,
And not in the stadium. So
they're trolling us. They're trolling us because we made fun of the fact that they were playing DuckTales, and they come out right after the stunt dogs. But Jerry's got text messages that he was sending in the group message of LSU fans giving the Cajuns an opportunity on a Lafayette Thursday night. They decided they didn't want to drive across the basin. They were going to go to Cajun Field to give them a shot, and they spent 45 minutes in line waiting for beer and popcorn. Now, I personally... we did good. We had soccer earlier this afternoon. We did a pizza for the kids, chopped it up into pieces, and we put it in our book bag. And they ate on the way there, so we were prepared. So we didn't have to go stand in line for food. But Dad got hungry, needed some popcorn, so I went into my secret spot in UD. I show up, no line. I'm like, sick. This is gonna take 30 seconds. Walk up to the concession line, and they say. I said, look, I need some popcorn. What size? Medium. We're just going to have to wait because we got to pop it. You're just going to have to wait.
You got better popcorn quicker at my house when I made it for y'all, and it was damn good. That's what I'm eating right now.
Damn good popcorn. But anyway, I had to sit there for 10 minutes. Literally nobody upstairs. Literally nobody for 10 minutes.
But here's the deal,
and
Josh,
I was in the middle of I was going to say, you know what? I'm sending this out. I'm sending it out, and then I felt bad, so I deleted it.
But I was thinking about it last night, and the fact that when you go eat at a nice restaurant, like Ruth's Chris, for instance, let's just go with that, because everybody knows what that is. You go to Ruth's Chris, you know what your experience is going to be there every single time. It's going to be people waiting on you hand and foot. It's going to be quick. It's going to be efficient. You're going to get the food exactly how you like it. The drinks are going to be exactly what you expect. And you'll keep going back because you know what you're going to get when you go. The problem is you never know what you're going to get when you go to Cajun Field right now. You don't know where you're going to park. You don't know what the service is going to be like. You don't know what the concessions are going to be like. It's so inconsistent. We have got to make it a consistent, positive experience because we're not Ruth's Chris right now. We're Wendy's at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Like we got to get that right before you try to address why people won't come. Get that right first. There's got to be conversations had with people and a come to Jesus meeting with the current vendors because it ain't working. They have got to get that right, have a consistent positive experience, and then you address the attendance issues. Because if you address the attendance issues and get 30,000 people in the stadium and it's an awful experience, guess what's going to happen again? They ain't coming back.
Jerry, hit him with the Canes analogy that you hit me. He gave me this yesterday. It was pretty solid. Go ahead.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was writing that down. No, you see what Canes does is you know what you're going to get. When you go to Canes, all it is chicken fingers. It's chicken fingers and fries, right?
Basic
But
stuff.
it's good quality, it's affordable, and it's consistent. Simple. Good quality, affordable, and consistent. You bring that to Cajun Field every Saturday during the fall season, you're going to get people to go and you're going to get good. It's going to be a good reception. It's like we talked about last night. You got to win the event. Part of winning the event is making sure your popcorn's ready by the time somebody like Josh comes up and asks for a box of popcorn. You got to make sure you're not waiting 45 minutes in line for a hot beer. You got to make sure that the hot dog that you get is not dry and green.
The ambassador is not waiting 15 minutes for freaking popcorn. He needs it now. I'm hungry now. I just went out and scored 4 goals. I need it. I'm tired and I'm hungry. I want it now.
Well, again, Raising Cane's, good quality, it's affordable, and it's consistent. And that's what it's all about. So, Christian, that's who I got to meet. I had the chance to speak with Christian and Christian, great conversation tonight. It was a pleasure meeting you. Very, very, very loyal fan. And I told Christian we need more like him. And they had a few others tonight at Cajun Field, one of which Nick Deal lives in Hattiesburg, came in for the game. Our good friend Andrew Grady, another friend of the pod, came in from Slidell with his brother, who is an Ole Miss grad, by the way. Brought him, let him experience the culture a little bit. Both made round trips, one from Slidell, one from Hattiesburg. If those type of fans can do that, we definitely could have fans in Acadiana doing the same thing, driving 10 minutes instead of 2 to 3.5 hour drives. So,
and shout out to my girl, Daryl Lynn, who came from Georgia Southern. She's a Georgia Southern fan, but she's a Raging Cajuns fan, number 2. She came down for the game tonight, and she cheers for us. She comes to games even when Georgia State isn't playing, or Georgia Southern. Oh, she'll kill me for saying that.
Oh, yeah,
Georgia Southern isn't playing us. She comes to Cajun Field, so shout out to her for showing up tonight. Wish I could have made it, but work's been stupid.
Hey, Brian, you're on deck, but real quick, Kent LeBlanc is saying, I talked to someone tonight who works with a construction company that will be doing the Cajun Field project. He said, I will still be sitting in my upper deck season ticket next year. Not close to starting construction yet, according to him. So, lots of questions have been lobbed our way, and we got to be careful, but that's an opinion of a person who's connected. So, take it for what it is. We're not endorsing one way or the other, but I'm not going to sit here and say that's not the first time I've heard that. So,
but I think that's a perfect opportunity for somebody from the admin to come and address it and just be upfront with us, just be transparent, let us know what to expect, and then things will simmer down. But if we keep this thing up where, well, rumors are going, we're going to tear it down, and then we don't, and then people get pissed off, that's where things, negative happen. So we want positivity. Let's go.
How often do we talk about messaging? You got to get the message right. If it's not going to be next year, you've already told Upper Deck that they're not going to be sitting in their spots next year. We got to get it right. We've got to get the message right.
We don't want another baseball debacle. We don't want that again.
Yikes.
That was awful.
Not good. Brian.
Not good.
Thanks for requesting to speak, sir. It is all yours.
All right. Well, I've been listening to the pod for a long time. I usually don't speak, but I have a few times. But you just hit on what I was going to ask. But first, what a game, right? What a game.
Great game.
I mean, we play like that. We got a chance to beat Florida State at Florida State.
I agree.
That's number one. 2 was going to be my question. I'm a RCAF member. I have season tickets. I go to all the games. When is the demolition going to start on the new stadium? For 2 years, they've strung us along. We're ready for it.
To me, when you send out emails to people saying that they're going to be displaced, you're on the brink. You're on the precipice. I don't think it's unfair to start getting some answers for that. And we're trying. We're actively trying to get some answers. And when we have them, we will give them to you all. But Brian's not wrong. When you tell people they're going to be displaced, you got to give them an answer after that.
But it's not even 2 years. We've been talking about this, I feel like, for 10. Like before the baseball stadium was even in discussions, like there were renderings out. We had crazy renderings of like some kind of village out connecting Cajun Boulevard and apartments. And so I get that all won't happen, and that was like a dream scenario. But we've been looking at renderings for over 10 years. We need an update, and a substantial one. And again, just be transparent. Just tell us what's going on so we know what to expect. Don't try to sugarcoat things. Be honest, and that would help. That would go a long way with our fan base. And
it's not unreasonable. Like, you told us, administration and university, you told us this was coming. And we've been having this conversation. I mean, this has been a regular conversation among Cajun fans for, like you said, almost a decade. Jerry and I we already had our concept for McNaspy's Restaurant, Bar, and Grill. Well, we already had it drawn out and everything. It was going to be right across the street. So this has been going on a long time. Brian, we'll give you the last word before you go, sir. And then if you have anything else, we'd love to hear it.
No, I'm just saying, man, congratulations to all the seniors tonight. What a game. What a way to go out for Cajun Nation. We appreciate every senior. And that's it.
Thanks for chiming in, Brian, and you nailed it. I mean, where would we be without this class of seniors? They've been spectacular.
And man, Zion was so close to that half. He needed a
couple
times.
Tackle. I know,
and he had the guy in his grasp, and somehow he got away. So he'll get it. Obviously, it sucks that it couldn't be in front of a home crowd.
Agree. Terry, how are you, Terry?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Hey, we won. Wasn't in front of like a huge crowd, but I mean, hey, I'm happy with the win. So I'm feeling pretty good, man. Feeling pretty good.
Talk to me about the offensive line tonight.
Everything went good. I saw them establish the line of scrimmage. I was more impressed with the running backs after the first contact, getting yards after contact. That's what I was more happy about. And if you look at the play, like, here's what I've been screaming about using Lance Bergeron in the run game forever, since he's been on the team. And you don't really need to do that when you run up the middle and it works. I don't mind running up the middle when you get 4 yards to carry every time. Running up the middle is fine with me so long as it works. I don't care to be flashy. I mean, I would like for us, if you're going to use Lance, don't use him just on a halfback pass that doesn't, or like a backwards pass or something that doesn't work. He has to throw the ball away and a 10-yard false start. But, but it really wasn't the offensive line that really impressed me. It was the running back getting yards up the contact. That's what mostly impressed me today with the run game.
But Terry, that was one of the funnest false starts I've ever seen in my life. That was one of the most entertaining. I'm telling you. So give him credit for that.
They blew the whistle. Wait. Yeah, man.
Hey, even though it didn't work, I really did like the pass back to Legendre, and the fact that he was looking to throw the football. I mean, at least it tells me they're thinking, right? I can live with it. And maybe if we're down by 20, I don't feel the same way, but we mostly controlled the line of scrimmage. I was fine with and this was coming off of, like, this was right after they threw the halfback touchdown. So yeah, I'm going to give credit to the offensive game plan and the offensive creativity there. Even though it didn't work, I like that they're thinking.
Yeah. Maybe the red zone play calling could have been a little bit better on that fourth down that Ben had to roll out and throw it away. But I was overall impressed with the offensive game plan, run game. Ben played well aside from that interception. which I mean, it was already going to be like they already had to drive the length of the field, so I wasn't really mad at it. It was fourth down, so it was whatever. And as far as like, I mean, as far as like the ESPN broadcast, they have God, ESPN just sucks, man. They call in Georgia Southern, Georgia State.
It's
They're still
so
calling
bad.
Louisiana Lafayette. It's very, very aggravating. I don't, what intern is running this crap? I don't understand though.
Who was the broadcasters tonight?
I couldn't tell you their names. I know one went to UCLA as a tight end. That's the only one I couldn't honestly tell you. They were okay. They mentioned Billy Napier's name once. That was really nice.
Step in the
And they
right
had
direction.
five shots of O and his girl down on the field.
Oh, yeah, bro.
I took a shot
there
every
again?
time they saw it. So
Yes, he was. We're the raging Ogeron, according to ESPN. That's what our name should be. Then.
wow.
Hell no.
I'm gonna fight somebody.
Absolutely not.
No, they didn't really say that. They didn't really say that. But
I mean, every time he's on the damn sideline, that's all they want to look at. It's so aggravating.
It is, man. I got so much respect for Georgia Southern. I'm happy we beat them. I mean, I've always had a respect for them. I think it's very, very cool they're in the conference and to beat them, their tradition. I was always mad when I was a senior we couldn't beat them for a conference championship game because there was no conference championship game my senior year. We had one loss to App, and they were undefeated in the conference their first year in, and that always kind of irked me, and I always felt some type of way. So any win over them is a good one. Nothing against them. It's not like a Kobe Carolina situation, but I love playing that type of thing.
Terry, was that the year they came to Lafayette and clapped us like 20-0?
Oh yeah. That was.
That's one of the in my lifetime. That's one of the most annoying. Outside of losing to Idaho at home, do you guys remember losing to Idaho and getting just murdered?
No,
Outside
I
of
gave
that
myself
game,
a lobotomy to try to forget that. Actually,
oh my god! So that at that App game when we were trying to win a conference championship, that pissed me off.
Yeah. So yeah, and they always talk about we went undefeated in the conference. Like, man, because you didn't play us. You didn't play us. Like I very much so very aggravated about that. But it is what it is. Hey, tonight was ours though.
Hey, I'll take it. We needed it. Talk about the team from your point of view, and obviously, I like to ask questions for people who watch TV. It's a little bit of a different perspective, and especially you being a former player, coming off of that game that you just lost to Troy, the way you lost it 4 days ago, what a hell of a bounce back, right? I mean, the psyche of a player. I know it's probably easier for these guys to let things go. They're a little bit younger. They have less stress in their lives, whatever. But are you impressed by the fact that they were able to just move on and win like this? I mean, that was a dominating performance. And if you take away the fourth quarter of Troy, we've dominated two good football teams for 7 of the last 8 quarters.
I can't tell you, Matt. It's so easy to lose a locker room. It is so easy. Like I can remember, guys after we lost. Who was it? We lost to ULM, back against ULM, and back against the South Al going into the bowl game, and we were like kind of like we were kind of hurt, like emotionally, like like psychologically. That and that was still a 8-4 regular season, right? And so you can easily lose a locker room, especially after the type of season this has. Man, I was so impressed with the energy on the sideline. That first touchdown to Johnson. Oh, sorry, Jefferson. Who was it? It was Johnson or Jefferson? I can't remember.
I think it was MJ. That first touchdown pass?
Yeah.
I cannot remember. Yep. Was it? So that first touchdown, that sparked, I think, the team, and we just didn't look back. So yeah, man, like I'm just so happy that everybody's ready to bounce back. Chris Smith ran like he was angry. He ran like there was like a demon inside of him.
He ran like the way that he ended the Troy game, because I'm telling you, T, he was irate. And I said,
I rewatched that. Yeah, I rewatched the end of the game.
So you saw it.
How he reacted.
Oh, dude, he lost his mind. Absolutely lost his mind. And as a fan, as an emotional fan, that's the kind of stuff you want to see. I need to see that emotion out of the players that I root hard for. So I'm not surprised by how he ran today.
Mm-hmm. So
Kent,
I'm
Kent,
where I was at.
Kent said that it was John Stevens Jr. who had that first touchdown. So
Yeah,
that's my
sorry.
bad.
Yeah, John
You're
Stevens,
right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
My fault. Mhm.
So
But
Jacob,
yeah, man.
Jacob wants to know,
hopefully-
Terry, are you giving the coaches credit?
Oh yeah, of course. I will, of course. Dez called a good game. Like I said, I don't care if you're flashy and it works, but if you're dull and it works, keep doing the dull stuff.
Sure.
What I don't like is when you get away from what works. Which is I'm mad about at the end of the Troy game. The run game was working. Ben was hurt. Why are we throwing the football? That was what I was mad about in the Troy game. And that game was lost due to offensive play calling. And Dez is a smart guy. I'm a huge Dez fan. I don't want Dez to lose any games. I want to cheer for him. He's an awesome guy. But you got to call a spade a spade. And when he's doing bad, you got to say that he did a bad job last week. And today, he did great. But also, it came down to execution. Like, if you're going to be dull all the time, players got to execute. The O-line's got to make a block. Like, receivers got to catch. The quarterback's got to make a right read, right? You know what I'm saying? We're not, doing triple option stuff, flashy, the ball going every which way, and it just does nothing. I don't care about that. Just execute the game plan.
But I feel like, Terry,
of course I give you.
I don't know if you saw what I saw, but those first couple drives, the play calling was immaculate. Like, it was on point, and I think that put us in a position to really, put pressure on Georgia Southern early, and it wasn't bland.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was really, really good play calling from the start, and I think that's really what got us off to such a great start tonight.
Yeah, to me, I don't really judge. Of course, like I look at the first few drives, but the first few drives is scripted, right? What goes into if you're a really good coach or not, or play call or not, is when the first 2 or 3 drives are over, what do you do now? Because now the other team has to adjust. Are you going to adjust to their adjustments? Like, that's what of course, yeah, the first few drives were really good, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I was more impressed with later on how the game was called and executed. That was what I was impressed with.
I agree 100% with that. Like I said, the fact that they were able to be more creative, and it felt like they trusted some of what was going on because of the execution, because of the offensive line play. You could tell that they were willing to take more chances. And look, Ben made some big time throws, but he also missed a couple of guys. And there's some people saying that he looked like he was hurt in that second half, and maybe he was. There was a pass to Terrence Williams that wasn't great, but it was an easy first down on 3rd and 4 or 5, going towards the south end zone, where you'd like to see him put a little more touch on that, but it's razor thin. It's small mistakes that I'm really not going to kill him over. I still think Ben's playing good football. He's playing high caliber football, like winning football.
And Josh, let's go back to what Dante said. He said, if it hits you in the hands, you
Gotta catch it.
And look, Ben was off on a couple of throws tonight, but it still hit him in the hands, and they had an opportunity to come down with it.
We still dropped, Nick, to your point, we still dropped. Like, I know that Peter dropped the ball, John dropped the ball, Meagle dropped the ball. If you want to say that Terrence dropped the ball, I mean, that's 4 right there. I don't know what his stats are, and we'll bring them up later, but I've been saying this all year. Jerry, to your point about the wide receiver crew, where you rank them in your preseason units, it's been a little bit underwhelming. I mean, that's the truth. They haven't helped them a whole lot. They're not going out there making circus catches. I mean, we don't expect that, but I expect you to extend and catch the football with your hands from time to time. I don't think that's too much to ask. Terry, appreciate you chiming in, man. Stick around. I know you probably have more to say. I'm reading the questions and just laughing so hard at these people.
Oh, yeah.
Crushing,
I'm
man.
here all night.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
Cajun Chuck, holler at your boy.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good, man. Glad you could chime in tonight.
Yeah, sorry. I've kind of been absent work assignments here up in the good old nation's capital. But
well, you need to quit that damn job. Watch the Cajuns.
I know. I got 2 years left. I need a pension, Hey, I have a quick question though. Is it that Mike is first-time head coach with limited experience? Is there going to be a play caller an offensive coordinator brought in, or is he able to handle? I'm just curious because I watch them every Saturday or whenever they're on. I watch the games, and you guys would know better than me. I'm just curious because I mean, I love the guy. I think he's a great hire. I think he's going to be there 25 years, and he's going to get everything straightened out and all that nonsense. But I'm just wondering if it's too much if he's doing the Napier thing as he was the play caller for, had experience with play caller at other programs and came in. Does any of this make sense? Is there any idea where he could just like run the program and have someone else come in, or because I get frustrated with play calling a lot. I did at Napier too. Oh God, I used to get so frustrated at Napier.
That's because he was a terrible play caller. Let's call a spade.
Yes,
you want to talk about calling a spade a spade? I think Billy's a fantastic program builder. I think he's a C- play caller. Always have said that. I said that his entire career here, and Jerry will tell you. I used to call Jerry on the phone and say, "What the hell is he doing? Like this is just terrible."
I totally 100% agree with you, and he's proven that over at Florida too. But yeah, I mean, but I'm just curious of what you guys that are at the actual games that I can't be at that you see. Is it too much for Mike to handle being so young and being a head coach of, I mean, he was handed like a Ferrari, and I understand this season it's been disappointing or whatever, and I kind of expected it with the turnover and how we basically Billy kind of effed us. And I'm just kind of curious about how you guys see the offense going forward. If there might be a coordinator brought in, or if you guys are comfortable with him calling plays, or I know the line is a rebuild and everything like that. But I mean, tonight, let me speak positively about my university that I graduated from. Hell of a game, guys. I love this team. I love the seniors. I support them. I donate every month. I do what I can, being so far away. And I just, I blush with Cajun pride. And I spread the word as much as I can up here. And shit all over my car. I've got flags flying outside my house. All that other junk going on. But anyway, I just want your thoughts about like maybe bringing in a play caller so he can focus in on like the head coaching, running the program, or if that's an absolute, disaster of a question. I'm sorry for being stupid.
No,
I want your input, guys.
It's not a disaster of a question. No. So what I'll first say, Chuck, is that first of all, you're an awesome fan. We follow you on social media. You do a great job spreading the Raging Cajun flair all over the DMV. So continue to do that. That's number one. Number two, don't get me started on Napier. Don't get me started. Number three, what you're asking is fair. You have a guy he's in a position that, again, he's not a young guy per se, but he's a young head coach, right? So people forget that he's been at the coaching conventions the last 7 years. He's coached under HUD. He's coached under Bustle. Excuse me, not Bustle. He played for Bustle, coached under HUD, and then obviously coached under Billy Napier with the pedigree that we all knew, right? He's been a high school coach. And if you look at the people that have been extremely successful throughout college football, they've all been high school head coaches. So keep that in mind when you talk about him being maybe an experienced head coach. All those things are very, very important. I'm going to kick it to Jerry or Nick. One of you guys can take it on the idea of, just giving Dez the autonomy to just run the football team rather than running the football team and calling plays, because I think it's a fair question. Whether I agree or disagree, I think it's a fair question for people to ask. because it's
Yeah,
something
and
that it's part of the learning curve, right? There's always going to be a learning curve. When you add more to the plate, I don't know, maybe it's something lost in translation. Maybe there's a little bit of, maybe you get a little overwhelmed. I don't know.
I love him. So I was there from '94 to 2001. So I was there at the end of the Delone Stokely area. I was there at the A&M victory, and it was great and awesome and all that. And then when I got my job up here in DC, I was watching them whenever they were on TV, and I remember watching them against LSU. God damn, we should have won that game. We turned the ball over like 5 times in the red zone. Finn Roy, Jerry Babb was the quarterback. Desmo was, special teams player and all that stuff. And I love the guy, and I think he's a great fit. I just wonder, because I say he's young, but I know he's not young in football. But is he just run the program and have someone else run the offense? I'm not bashing the guy. I support him. I've put it out on Twitter. He'll be there for 25 years. They'll build statues of the guy, and they will. I have full faith in that.
They will.
They're getting their feet wet. They're getting their feet wet.
Don't apologize for asking a good question, Nick. Hey Chuck, by the way, thanks for checking in. We're going to answer your question, and then we'll move on. Nick, thoughts on the question? I think it's fair.
Yeah, it is fair. And look, there have been times where we've questioned coaching on both sides of the ball, and we've questioned decisions on both sides of the ball. I feel like I'm less frustrated this year with play calling on the offensive line than I have been in the last 3 or 4. And I'm not saying that Napier didn't call a good game. I'm not saying that. I mean, obviously the results speak for themselves, but I think you've got, and I think in 5 years, it's all going to come out exactly how affected we were by the Napier leaving scenario. Because I think we all I don't think we all underestimated how big of an impact that would be on how things played out. I think we were just so optimistic on, we can get through this. We got Dez, we got Lamar, we can figure it out. We still got Munoz, and we still got, some of the guys still, and some of the core players, but I think we underestimated really how big of an effect that would have on us this year. So I'm not going to question yet play calling. I think I've been frustrated in some games at some of the plays that were called at particular times in the game. Like you're up by 17 and you haven't had success running the ball, and then you run it up the middle 3 times and punt. Like, that to me is frustrating. But again, there's a method to the madness that I don't understand the X's and O's in. So I'll go back to saying what I said. I'm not as frustrated with play calling this season as much as I have been in the past few seasons. Now, again, results speak for themselves. We were very successful, but was that a credit to our offensive play calling or our defensive play calling with Tony as defensive coordinator? Was that a testament to the talent we had on the offensive line and on defense? You have to kind of put all that together. So I think we're a little spoiled with all the NFL talent that we've had on the roster over the last 3 to 4 years. And when you pull game-changing guys out of the program and an entire coaching and support staff, it's going to hurt you. And I think that hurt us more than the play calling decisions that we're making. So that's just my take on it.
I think in all of this, Mike's still getting adjusted to being a college head coach. And with all of that,
it's not just Mike, though. It's not just Mike. We've got an entire staff learning how to do their job.
Right.
And players learning how to play for them.
Well, also to his staff, you've got a lot of first-time position coaches, guys who were just analysts a few years ago or grad assistants a few years ago getting promoted. So you got to include that with Dez being adjusting to being a head coach. This is a new experience for a lot of people on this team. I think as far as the play calling goes, that's not something that's as much of a big deal for me. Actually, to be honest with you, outside of a few decisions, I think Mike calls decent games. If there's one, there's sometimes Mike, he likes to take chances. I mean, like today, he took a chance, 4th and goal from the 3. I would have taken the points. I don't know if he's really as analytical as Billy was. Billy went by the book. I mean, it was strictly by the book based on analytics. Mike is more of a let me get a feel for this more than that.
Manalytics.
Right.
Manalytics. Napier was a great coach. I'm going to tell you, again, program builder. Not a great play caller. Just wasn't, dude.
Well, I think as far as the play calling duties go, I mean, you've seen there's a lot of coaches out there who don't have experience as head coach who still call plays. I mean, the most prominent one, even at the NFL level, was Sean Payton. Sean Payton called all of the plays. He basically ran the offense. Now, granted, he was an OC before, and I know Dez was a co-OC last year, but I think as far as play calling, as long as you know the situations, and remember, here's another common denominator I want to let people know about. A lot of your play callers are former quarterbacks. I mean, the ones we all look, Billy was a former quarterback. Dez was a former quarterback. Sean Payton was a former quarterback. You look at a lot of these coaches now who are head coaches who call plays, a lot of them were quarterbacks. So they understand the dynamics of how an offense is run as opposed to, say, somebody else who wasn't a quarterback. Actually, a lot of your OCs, a lot of your good OCs at the collegiate level were former quarterbacks. So that's another dynamic of the game itself that, people look at and say, well, okay, even though he's a head coach, it's more of a burden, but a lot of that's second nature to some of these coaches. And I would think that would be second nature to Dez as well. If there's any concern about that, I would say maybe him. If there was any concern that I would have about Dez, I will say that he and his coaching staff, I'm sure there's moments this year where they might have felt overwhelmed. With new jobs comes new territories, comes new responsibilities, comes new expectations or higher expectations. And when you're new at it, it can be overwhelming at times. I wouldn't be surprised if they were a little overwhelmed. That's not a bad thing. It's just a learning experience. It's a learning curve that this coaching staff and this team is really adjusting to. But if they can continue to overcome those obstacles and overcome those new experiences like what we saw tonight, in the long run, they're going to be fine. You just have to work out the kinks, right? I think that's one of those situations where as time goes on, I think they will learn and I think they will get better. But as far as the play calling duties with Dez, I know a lot of people have kind of questioned it of why, is he taking this burden? Look, Billy called plays his first year too. Now, granted, like you said, Josh, he's not a perfect play caller, but he still won games for us. And it got him a job at Florida. So
he went 50-50.
Yeah.
He went 7-7, which, by the way, anybody want to take a guess what Dez is? He's 5-5. And to Kent's point, here's the thing. Yeah, I think we're more talented than Troy, South Al, and Southern Miss. I really do think that. But I also understand that people getting key snaps, they didn't have to have those key snaps under their belt last year because they had Farrod Gardner and they had Percy Butler and they had, Mekhi Gardner, who was young but was incredibly talented. They had a Levi Lewis, a 5-year player, 4-year starter. They had a lot of these COVID seniors that had been here forever. Like, I understand that the talent is there. And I do also think that the character and the leadership from a locker room standpoint is there. But a lot of these guys are seeing snaps for the first time as the guy. Like, look at Quibb. Quibb is an awesome player, great effort guy, motor guy. Is Quibb as talented as Farrod? I don't know. But I promise you he didn't take as many meaningful snaps in big-time games as Farrod did or McCaskill did. That's just a fact. And again, we got a lot of NFL guys that came off of those Hudspeth teams. And Billy walked into that. Did they help? Did they help to develop them? Sure. Sure they did. But they went 7-7 and lost to Coastal Carolina with Carpenter, by the way, as a freshman quarterback at Cajun Field, when we were way better than them, way more talented than them at that point. He finished 7-7. We're 5-5. So if history is any teacher, we're kind of tracking. Do I think we should be 8-2, 7-3 right now? Absolutely. I really do. But I also thought that Billy should have beat Coastal Carolina. And in 2018, we lost another game that we should not have. Was it Georgia Southern? I don't want to get bogged down, but there's always going to be games that we should win. My question, before anybody else asks a question, my question here is this. Does anybody watch our games and think we're getting worse?
No, my whole point.
I don't think we're getting worse.
Interrupt.
Go ahead, Chuck.
No, I'm sorry. and I'll end it here, guys. First of all, you guys are awesome. You guys are kick-ass. I listen to you at 4 a.m. when I'm going into work or whenever I'm traveling, and can get an earpiece in and listen to a podcast when I'm supposed to be doing work. Anyway, I totally agree with you. Napier 7-7. Mike's getting his feet wet, and the staff is getting their feet wet. These are things that I forget over this success, and me touting this here in DC. By the way, I remind all my Commander friends here in DC. By the way, your a Raging Cajun won you a game by getting a muff punt, just so you know.
Damn right. Percy P.
And by the way, Brian Mitchell is on the radio here from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. every day, just loving the Cajuns. It's awesome. Anyway, with that said, thank you again, guys, for doing what you do. I know you put your own time, own money, and everything into this. This is awesome. Keep it going. I'll keep doing what I can do up here to build it and supporting, and my donations will come in every month, win or lose. Go Cajuns, great basketball win the other night, and baseball's going to go to Omaha. Go Cajuns. Love you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate that. Always, tell you what, get Brian to hit us up, and we can get Brian on the show. That'd be fun. The other thing is that, Kent obviously knows what he's talking about, but let me just make an analogy. Sometimes when you have people that investigate car accidents, right, the worst witness is the person that's in the car accident because they're too close. And I'm not saying that Kent's not smart enough to understand the difference. I know that they've been around the program for a long time. What I'm saying is that when you're invested and you're very, very close, it's very hard to remove yourself emotionally. Again, we're 5-5. Should we have 1, 2, or 3 more games? 100% agree with that. I agree with it. Mike agrees with it. And you guys know that. I showed you, the conversation. Mike knows we should be better record-wise than we are. At the same time, at no point do I ever watch a game and think, oh, we're getting worse. I give a lot of credit to Coach Jeff Norrid. This is an offensive line that has learned on the fly, dealt with injuries, dealt with shuffling. Jack's, what we all thought was their best offensive lineman's been out the last couple of games. They've only gotten better. We have got to highlight that. That's a big deal. You can't do anything without an offensive line. We saw that against Rice, right? ULM, to a certain degree, Southeastern. These are things that you can't look past. And credit to Lamar Morgan. Learning on the job. This defense has been reliable every week, just like we thought they might. The linebacking crew has been developed. They continue to make big plays. Jordan Quibb has been the leader you expected him to be. And that secondary has done everything they were expected to do outside of the Frank Gore toss. I'm not ever going to forget that because I still can't believe that happened. But outside of that, at no point do I feel like we're getting worse. If there's ever a time where I feel like we're getting worse, then I'm going to come on here and say, okay, we have a problem. But I think if we're being honest, all of us, we can't judge Mike on year one. We can't judge Lamar Morgan on year one. We can't judge a lot of these guys. Tim's a new OC, and I know he's basically a passing game coordinator, but you can't judge these guys. I mean, a lot of these guys are learning on the fly. A lot of our coaches are similar to our talented players. They've never been the guy. They've never been, all eyes on me in a big moment. You go into halftime, make adjustments, and everybody's staring at you like, that's a tough spot to be in if it's your first time or you're, a few times. I think we've gotten better as a staff. I think we've gotten better as a football team. It's the talent is obviously there. We all know that. And then the other thing is are we going to keep recruiting? That's the other thing. But right now, what we're seeing, guys, we just came off of a tough loss, a game we never should have lost, probably 2 of those. And then we dominated Georgia Southern, who's a good football team, and they can score points. And the defense was every bit as good as we thought they would be. So that's where we're at. Does Mike need to hire an OC? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question yet. Am I down on the hire? No, hell no. I'm not. I'm going to go down with that ship until there's actually a reason to question it.
Hey, Josh, we have a caller on the line. You ready for it?
I'm always ready.
All right, Jim, go ahead. You're on, man.
Okay, guys, 2 questions. I had one question, but since Josh, I got another question since Josh was talking about what he's just talking about. First question is this. First question about the invisible man, and that is receiver number 29. Why is he not used like he was in the past? Billy Napier obviously used number 29 different than Desmond. If you remember, Iowa State, Ohio, Appalachian State, a few games. The kid has had several games with deep balls thrown to him over his career. Why is Peter LeBlanc not used deep anymore?
Nick, you want to take that? Anybody want to take that? I have an answer, but you guys are more than welcome.
Anybody have any idea why is he not used like he was with Billy Napier this year?
That's a great question.
Had one deep ball thrown to him all year.
No, I'm going to defer to you, Josh.
If you think about his career, he's had several deep balls thrown to him. I mean, he's had several deep balls his career. Why is he not used like that anymore?
So this is
Anybody?
the thing. Similar to Dante Fleming, he was a young receiver when we had the cluster injuries on wide receiver core going into 2020. Right? 2020, not 2019. Okay. 2020. He was used because he had to be used. And yes, he did make plays. I'm not going to say he didn't, and it was impressive as a young player. Since then,
right, I think he came in 2019. He started ever since.
Yeah, he started ever since. But I'm talking about specific to the 2020 season when we beat Iowa State, because that's when he really got featured. I know he played some as a freshman, but he was featured his sophomore year or his redshirt freshman year, whatever it was. He's had multiple groin injuries, and Kent, by all means, feel free to chime in and tell me I'm wrong. He's had multiple groin injuries. He's had other injuries. I think he had a concussion in 2021, and that took a little bit to recover from. Since then, the rest of the wide receiver core has filled roles. And sometimes when guys are rolling, you got to give them the football. And let's be honest, he hasn't been that guy since he's gotten his opportunities. He's dropped some passes. He hasn't been as good as he was when he's relied on to make plays as he was when he was a younger player. That's just the bottom line. And again, I'll go back to what Gerald Broussard said. When young players are relied upon and they make big plays, they kind of just expect to play, and they kind of just expect to be part of the game plan. That's a learning curve. That is something that you have to get over. You still got to show up and work. Nobody is entitled to that playing time or those opportunities. So if he's not working hard, and I'm not saying he's not, I'm saying if he's not working hard to earn those minutes and earn those snaps and earn those opportunities, and other guys are stepping up, if he doesn't fit the game plan also, things have changed with Mike. Things are different. We've got some mismatches on the outside that weren't necessarily there when Peter was a younger player. John Stevens is, 6'7"? MJ 6'4", an NFL talent. They're going to get the lion's share of the reps. So all of those things combined, Jim, I think are probably the reason.
Do you see that Ben looks at maybe one receiver and maybe not survey the field as much as Levi did? That's what I kind of see.
Well, I think that first of all, there's a reason why he's a transfer. Yeah, so I would say that there's a reason why he's a transfer. And Levi had 2 options. I mean, Billy taught him 2 options. That was the game plan. We know that for a fact. It was either hot route, 1 or 2. There were no progressions with Levi. It was 1, 2, take off. That's it. So, yeah, I think Ben he does fall in love with a couple of guys, but I also think he trusts a few folks, especially when again, we're 5-5.
And I also think Ben has gotten better with spreading the ball around as we've gone through the season. Yep. But yes, I will say he has had his favorite receiver through the first couple of games that he started, but I think he's getting better at spreading the ball around. And I think that's part of our success tonight, is that he was able to look off coverage and get it to different guys tonight. So I think he's gotten better in that regard.
And I also think too, to right. Ben's credit, one thing that Ben's been able to do is his pocket presence. The more he plays, the more patient he looks in the pocket, which gives him more time to look downfield right. instead of being a one check quarterback. I mean, if you notice tonight, even against Arkansas State, it was Arkansas State. I noticed like he threw to like 2 or 3 different tight ends. He threw to like 4 or 5 different receivers. He threw some short passes in the flat to pretty much 2 or 3 of his running backs. And I want to
say, Jerry, it was 11 different receivers in Arkansas.
Like he's looking at those guys from the first. So it doesn't look like he looks like he's looking at those guys from the snap, though. not that he's checking off and like that's where he's going from the beginning. But here's my other question: you guys are just talking about offense coordinator. We all been with the Cajuns long before Dez and Napier and even Hud. We've been since Busselman before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So if you had to peg an offense coordinator on this staff, and you have to say Leger or Munoz, who would you pick?
Munoz.
100%
Munoz, right?
Yep.
Munoz. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I'd say that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Munoz, just his resume would be a better coordinator.
Well, that and he was a younger coach under Bustle.
Can we all agree on that?
But Munoz, first of all, he's a national champion. But second of all,
his resume, just his resume.
Two of the
Oh, yeah,
most brilliant
absolutely.
offensive minds we've ever had here and I've ever spoken to is George Munoz and Jay Johnson.
Right.
Those two guys I respect immensely. But
Jay Johnson, yeah.
just
I
having
thought
him on
Jay Johnson
staff
should
is a
have
great
been
thing.
Considered for the head job right now, actually, yeah. But
I
yeah,
wonder what-
if you right now on our staff, you say coordinator, Munoz over Leger, I would say in a minute.
Well,
And look,
and look, Tim is really not an awesome. He's a passing game coordinator at this point, and he's doing other things. You know, these titles are kind of misleading. You know, I mean, Dez is really calling the plays, and he's basically making the game plan. Tim is basically what Munoz was doing at LSU. I mean, it's essentially what he's doing, right?
So how much do you think Munoz has as far as getting into Dez's head and calling plays on the sideline or giving him feedback? Because, I mean, he was there when Dez was a quarterback. You know, I mean, do you think he's like Dez listens to him on the sidelines and he
I'll say,
is
Jim,
open to his discussions? Or
tonight I was watching, they had a couple of shots on the sideline tonight, and there were times where they were showing Dez and Munoz was right by him and they were talking. I mean, they were like, and this is when we were on offense. They were going back and forth on what the next play was. I think we had called the timeout. They were the two discussing what we were going to do next. So yes, I do think Munoz has a hand in what we call offensively.
And not to mention,
Yeah.
it's not just on the field. It's the week of preparation leading up to the game. When those coaches meet, whether it's Leger, even Viatar, we can't forget Matt Viatar either. Leger, Viatar, Munoz.
Matt can't be on the field, but Matt definitely during the week. Matt can't be
Right.
on the field.
So they're in the meeting room.
Definitely during the week.
All four of those coaches are together and they're coming up with an offensive scheme. All of them. They're all giving input.
Right.
And I think by the time Saturday rolls around, ultimately Dez is the one calling the plays. But to Nick's point, you know, Munoz is right there too. He's right there next to him. Leger's right there next to him. They're giving their 2 cents to Mike and helping him out. But ultimately Mike's going to call the plays. But definitely those coaches have their hands in the offensive scheme, not only leading up to the game, but in the game as well. For sure.
I tell you what about as far as Viatar goes, I know I've got pretty good references that Viatar couldn't be on the field and would watch practice from some videos and stuff. And when Napier would get off the field, the first person he would talk to about practice in action, what he thought was Viatar. That's how much respect he had for Viatar.
And the guy's got so much experience, man.
Lean on him.
100%.
Yeah,
I mean, with all the experience as a head coach he's had, 100% they better be leaning on him.
He definitely has some great talent around him offensively. I mean, there's no reason why we can't do it offensively, you know? But anyway, guys, thank you. Appreciate you guys. Love what you guys are doing. Yeah, have a good night.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jim. Really appreciate the perspective there. That was some interesting comments. Jacob LeBlanc, I don't see Dez as someone too proud to ask for advice. That's what I like about him. He's no BS, honest, and humble. I actually agree with that. There's no way that Mike is not going to George and saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about this scheme? What do you think about this route tree? There's no way that he's not getting feedback and taking it seriously. I mean, he's got veteran guys all over that staff, which is great. Again, it goes back to what people say, he's a young coach. Yeah, he's a young coach, but this guy's been around. He's got great connections. He's got people on staff that are going to hold him accountable, number one, and give him the feedback that he needs, number two. I don't necessarily think that that's even up for debate.
And he's mentioned that before, where they'll be in a meeting leading up to the season and they would kind of talk about their scheme based off of what Billy used to run. And then you have guys like Munoz stepping in going, well, why are you doing it this way? What if we tried this? Same thing with Leger. Well, maybe we should try this. Maybe we should do that. Viatar, same thing. All these coaches are giving their input to where they're adjusting to maybe a newer scheme or a different scheme or more of a dynamic scheme than what they've run before. Because now it's, even though you're coming off of the scheme that Billy ran, you still have different personnel. You still have it's a brand new staff as well. So to have that type of knowledge in that meeting room is very, very valuable to Dez. Think about it like this: Matt Viatar was the head football coach when McNeese spanked us in 2007.
Now, why you want to bring that up?
Yeah, really? We're gonna go there, bro.
Because I'd rather him be on our team than be on the other side of the sideline doing that. And that's an extra coach right there that has had success as a head coach elsewhere. I mean, Josh, you remember when he got fired from ULM, we were all kind of scratching our heads going, why on earth would Monroe do something like that?
I was one of the first to say bring him home.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that, bringing him home was huge. But that's the beauty of having those type of coaches with that type of experience to help Dez out on these offensive schemes. It works and it's successful.
100%. Hey, I want to encourage everybody to request to speak. We'll get you in, but got a caller. So let's do that, Nick.
Kyle, what's up, man?
Oh man, I just got finished watching Sybil. I don't know if y'all know who Sybil was, but there was a movie way back in the day about a woman that had 16 different personalities, and I feel like I've been watching my favorite Sybil team today, except they only got about 6 different personalities. I just don't know which one's going to show up. I don't know which one's going to show up from week to week.
But this one was your favorite, right?
Oh yeah, it was a good. Yeah, this was the good Sybil. I mean, I don't know. I'm living in perpetual frustration. I know y'all saying that that y'all haven't seen the team get worse during the season, but I've seen them play worse. I've seen them take 2 steps forward and 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, and you don't know what you're gonna get from week to week, man. It's like
Kyle,
to quote
Billy Napier's team did the same thing. We should have lost to ULM twice. We should have lost to Georgia Southern at least once at home. We should have lost to Georgia State at home. Billy just had the rabbit foot in the back of his pocket. Yeah, we've taken some steps back. There's no question. But as far as like overall a unit getting worse or whatever, no, I haven't seen it.
Well, I'll say this. I think the offensive line is way better than they were earlier in the season. I think they've come a long way. But I say that, and as soon as I say it, who knows of course, next week they got to play Florida State, and that's going to be a meat grinder game. I mean, let's just be realistic about it. Do I think they'll go over there and try to play well? I think they have the possibility to play well against Florida State. They also have the possibility to go over there and get 50 hung on them. And I don't know what to think about this team from week to week, man. I mean, they are so up and so down. And the thing that frustrates me, I'm gonna tell you what the 2 things that worry me about this football team. You don't know what you're gonna get from one week to the next, and what's gonna happen next year when they lose all of these defensive players. I see their offense getting better, but man, they're going to lose. You look at the talent that's on that football team on the defensive side of the football, and when I think about the guys that ain't going to be there next year, that concerns me. How are we going to recruit? And who do we have coming in to take the place of the guys that we're going to lose?
Well, Kyle, I think this is where our coaching staff has to be smart, because the transfer portal works 2 ways, not only going out, but also coming in. So we got to be smart with the transfer portal next year.
Yeah, that's true. But how long is it going to take this staff to get whoever it is to gel? to build that cohesion that you have to be a special football team.
I think,
And I'm scratching my head wondering about it. It's like, what do you, I don't know. I mean, it's like anybody's going to try to predict what this team is going to do from week to week. It's just, there's no predicting it. There's no getting a handle on it.
but Kyle,
one week they play so well, and the next week they can play just, not even show up.
right, but to your point, Kyle, I think if you want to look in the long run, that's the importance of playing a lot of substituting guys in and out and getting them experience. Because to your point, when we lose some of those defensive players, the Braylon Trahans and the Zion Hill Greens and the Moncriefs, you're gonna have guys behind them that step up, but it can help now if you continue to play those guys behind them. That's kind of what Billy did, which was why a lot of these guys that are starting now were able to kind of step into their role a lot easier. You just have to play a lot of guys. I mean, that's really the only way you can get them ready when it's their time to step up and be that starter, be that guy. They just need experience.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I mean, when they're on, they're fun to watch. They're a good team. But, man, when they're off, it can get miserable real quick. And I just, I would love to see – I don't know if I'd rather see a little bit less talented team play more consistently or see a team that I know this team has a lot of talent. I mean, I know I've heard people all Billy took this and took that. Man, he didn't take the majority of the talent that was on this team. I mean, this team had a lot of talent to the point where, a couple of linemen, that hurt us losing the big boy over there to Florida when he went. But overall, man, it just seems like they should have been able to gel better earlier. And that's the part that frustrates me the most about this football team.
But I think, Kyle, we underestimated. I mean, you look at Osiris Torrance. You look at our running backs that left, that went to Florida and TCU. You look at Mekhi Gardner. You look at Kyron Lacey. Like, I get that we didn't lose a lot of players, but we did lose a lot of talent. And not only that, when you combine that with the coaching staff and the support staff that left, there was a lot. You're talking about cohesiveness. There was a lot of cohesiveness that had to be built as the season went on. So I'll give them a pass this season. Now, look, next season or the season after, if we're still having this conversation, then I think we need to go deeper into it. But I think, from my perspective at least, I think I was a little more on the buy side of this team because I just thought, hey, we'll make it work. But I think deep inside in the back of my head, I knew there would be issues. I just didn't want to admit it to myself.
Well, another thing that bothers me, you got a college football team. You got 80 kids, 85 kids. You're talking about all the guys that play. It bothers me and I know Billy never did it either, but look, I cannot stand an offense where you never get under center. You never have a fullback. You never can seem to line up if you got a 4th and 1 or a 4th and 2 and line up in a situation where even if they know you're going to run the football, that you can put more hats on hats than, to block than they have to tackle and move bodies around and out physical guys and get that one play that's going to keep those chains moving, or plan for 2 plays. If you've got a 3rd and short or 3rd and goal from the 2 or the 3 yard line, you can't just line up and physically push the ball into the end zone because of the style of offense you're running. That bugs the living crap out of me, man. And, there's nothing wrong with having an old school game to fall back on. Yeah, we want to see them throw the football all over the field, and we want to see them have the circus act going. But, man, sometimes you got to line up and shove the ball down the other team's throat and enforce your will on them. And I don't like that you constantly are dependent on the zone read that, it's got a lot of flaws, man. And it's an easy offense to learn. But if it's an easy offense to learn, it's an easy offense for defenses to learn too. And that's why I think, a lot of that zone read stuff is going to, as time goes on, these defensive coordinators keep working on it. Eventually, they're going to stymie it unless you've got a true dual threat quarterback that'll get out there and run the football and expose himself like a running back. It's going to get tougher and tougher with just a zone read offense to move the football up and down the field consistently against a lot of football teams, especially in the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt has some really they got some tough defenses in this conference. And I just don't know going forward, if we're not willing to expand and use other play schemes and techniques and steal from other people. Hey, if it's working for them, why don't we try this? If we don't do more of that, I don't know what kind of I really don't know what kind of success that we're going to be able to have going forward.
Well,
to your real quick, before you go, Jared, real quick, to your point about the zone read, and I hear you because I agree with you to a certain degree. When that became prevalent, it was with schools that couldn't recruit offensive linemen. It covers up lack of talent on the offensive line or youth on the offensive line. It creates space. I know you know that. So maybe that tells you more about the offensive line than we're willing to admit. So that's one thing. But I will say that we've been a lot more physical lately. I'm not gonna pass over that. I think that we've been more physical lately. Now, inconsistent, yes, you're right about that. I agree with that 100%. But going back to Nick's point about losing talent and losing key pieces at key positions, on top of the names that he mentioned, Manak in the NFL, Percy Butler, NFL, Levi Lewis, hello. There's a ton. And Torrance is not just a good offensive lineman. He's the best offensive lineman in the country in the SEC. He's the only PFF-rated 90-plus offensive lineman in the entire country. That is a massive hole. Now, we lost 3 offensive linemen in the spring. So think about that. We had guys that did not expect to play starting. And then we have offensive line injuries during the season. So those are all big things. Names that we don't even talk about. Again, I bring up Farad and McCaskill often because they tackles. I mean, they were always in the middle of everything, causing turnovers. Seniors. They were like 25 years old when they graduated and got out of here. And they're also, Farad got picked up by the Commanders for, I don't know if he's still on the practice squad, but he had a cup of coffee. McCaskill's at Kansas, one of the most improved teams in the country. I mean, we lost a ton at key positions. I agree that we're talented. I still go back to it's okay and fine when you're the co-pilot and you're on a successful flight. When you're the pilot on a successful flight, it's a little bit different. So I just wanted to make that point. And Kyle, nothing you said is wrong. I do wonder, what did you like tonight? What do you like over the last couple of weeks? Something that's trending that you see that's positive for this football team.
I loved our offensive line, the way they got after it. I mean, it's like we understood. We talk about physicality, but a lot of it is mental assignments and being able to just understand. Hey, they're changing their. You see the linemen the defensive line get down into a point, and then they shift over. And we were handling these shifts, and we were making the adjustments. The backs were hitting the right holes. The guys were go ahead, and they were taking their guys out, and you were having nice running lanes for our guys to run into. They were cutting back well. I mean, you had and these were big. Look, Georgia Southern's defensive line was as big as any defensive line that we played all year. I don't think Georgia Southern was as athletic in their back seven as a lot of teams we played this year. They didn't have the speed to fill those gaps that a lot of other teams had. But we were able to physically get a hat on them and push them around. And those were some big boys. And that part, when you're able to run the football, now you're able to use your play action and open up your passing game. If a team can stop you and keep you at 3rd and 9 and 3rd and 10 after you run the ball twice, and now you're trying to throw the football, your play action game means nothing. You're on 3rd and 2. You got every play in your playbook is still open to you. So you've got to get the hard yards to start to move the chains and keep the drives going to be able to open up the plays that Bernard is going to get, or the plays that Jefferson's going to get, or the plays that Fleming's going to get. But if you don't do that, you're not going to ever give yourself a chance to get the ball out to those guys, because the defense is going to pin their ears back and they're going to come after Ben. He's not going to have any time to throw the football. All of his throwing lanes are going to be closed, and he's not going to have anywhere to run. It all starts up front, and that's where we really, really look good tonight. But the question is, can we keep that up? That's what's got me so frustrated as a fan.
Big shout out to the tackles
most
tonight.
Fans would feel that way.
Big shout out to the tackles tonight who set the edge the entire night, and Ben was able to get out. So was Chris Smith. That was one of the reasons why he had a big night. Tackles just setting the edge.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know what we ran. I'd love to hear some stats. I haven't heard any stats yet.
Yeah, we're gonna do that next. Actually, Jerry, I'll give you last word on Kyle before we move on, and then we'll start talking stats.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jerry.
I'll talk.
Well, I was going to say, you were mentioning about why don't we run more formations or open up the playbook a little bit more. And really, Kyle, honestly, man, you see college football or just football in general, a lot more teams are running spread because they're trying to utilize speed. Football, in many ways, has become a lot more finesse and a lot more athletes with just natural speed. So in order to do that, a lot of times they run those formations like the shotgun, or they run a 5 wide, and they try to spread the field out and utilize that. And I think that's one thing we've been able to do. But you can still get in the trenches with the type of offense we run. I think what you're seeing, especially another thing that we run, or a lot of teams run, is RPO. You see a lot of teams run RPO even at the NFL level. So that's really why I don't think we're going to be running, you're not going to see us run single back. We're not going to run out of the I formation or anything like that, is because a lot of the guys we sign are just athletic in general. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that in football as a whole, compared to what you saw 10 to 15 years ago, where teams are they're just not going under center anymore. And they're also getting a lot of dual threat quarterbacks out there too. But
the most successful teams in the country, even though they're running a spread type of offense, they still will get under center, and they still will come in with a fullback on certain occasions. I ain't saying you got to do it I'm talking about 5 times, 6 times a game when the situation is set up for it. They know what you're probably gonna do. You've given yourself a lot better chance to be successful when you're at the line of scrimmage and you get the momentum coming. You got people running downhill instead of trying to get to the line of scrimmage and make a read against the gap defense that's not going to let you. They're not going to let you have a hole. They're not going to give you a hole. You're going to have to make a hole. And the only way you can make a hole is by getting more bodies on their bodies than they have bodies to defend at the point of attack where you want to run. It's a simple matter of mathematics, and it's football in its most primitive terms. And you cannot abandon that. You can't. You have to be able to, when you need it, put that kind of an offense out there where you have guys coming up in the hole, making a hole because they're having to knock somebody back on their ass. And if you can't be able to do that, the most successful teams, like if you look at Georgia, and even if you look at the team over there on the other side, they will get under center and they will run. They will have two backs in that backfield or have a tight end lined up somewhere in an H-back position where he can get in there and put another helmet and make a spot where a guy can get up into a lane and get 2 or 3 critical yards. And if you can do that, then now you can open up so much more of the rest of your playbook to do the things that you want to do. You just can't you can't depend on this spread offense consistently to give you what you have to win in every situation. And I think if they don't learn how to do this, they're going to continue to have trouble when they're going to play teams that are going to come up and punch you in the mouth, play that punch you in the mouth style of football. And, until they do it, I just don't see us being where we're going to ever be able to win game in and game out and game in and game out. And that's the difference right now to me in a 5-5 and an 8-2 football team. That's just the way I see it. Y'all have a good night, fellas. Later.
Good night, Kyle. Thanks for the call. And listen, the good news is that that's the plan. The plan is to be physical. Even though we may not be executing week in and week out, that's the plan. And Mike's never going to get away from that. His offense is always going to be predicated on physical running game and just making plays when you need to.
But I love the fact that Kyle's calling for Veer offense. He going to Katie in high school tonight.
Hey, I was sitting next to Kyle for a while today, and he was talking about the fullback, and I was like, look, I'm all the way in on the fullback. So for me, it's tight end, fullback, and everybody else, all right? So I'm all the way down. Juco, appreciate you checking in, sir. I know you requested a while ago. I apologize on the wait, but it is all yours.
And appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me. Man, I was trying to find you guys at the game, man. I was looking, I was tweeting. I was like, man, where y'all at so I can come see y'all and everything. But anyway, man, I enjoyed the game. The game was pretty good. I was actually with the students. I like to just hang out with the students, talk to them, see how they're doing and everything. They were doing pretty good. The atmosphere, I guess the fans, there was a lot of dead spots. I don't know if y'all could have seen that, but it was a lot of dead spots. It was kind of, for me, it was kind of boring. So some spots. So I don't know. I think they need do some type of fan engagement, get the fans involved, try to, to keep fans to stay, because I've seen a lot of people starting to leave, and it was the fourth quarter. I was like, man, people starting to leave. It's the fourth quarter. I know I have to work, but I mean, I want to stay. I want to stay and support these guys, man. Support the seniors and everything. I guess try to get some ideas, for to keep the fans in the stands. The fans that that do show up, the prize and the things for the students, that was pretty cool. The halftime show, I'm gonna just be real with y'all, it was cute, but it was just, I could have gone to, if I wanted to go to a dog show, I could have go to a dog show and watch a dog do tricks.
Can we have an adult conversation here? And I'm not trying to shit on anybody, all right? Whatever. I understand that we tried every promotion in the book, and I understand that our band is what it is. I get all that, but it's so high schoolish, man. I mean, it just is like, my kids loved the dog show. They loved it. But I mean, I don't know. I guess you got to gauge your audience, Nick. But I don't know, man.
But I think that's the problem, Josh, is that we have okay, So not gonna poo-poo on the admin for trying. Thank you.
No,
I
not at
appreciate
all
it.
what I'm trying to say.
But
at
what
all.
but the point is, like, if you're gonna have attractions for kids at the game, then market to kids to come to the game. Like, don't market to adults to come to a game and then you have a kids halftime performance. Like, if we're
DuckTales.
trying to market to kids, then we need to get a freaking mascot to the schools to get the kids to the game. But that's a whole we're gonna have a whole pod on that
Rabbit
with
hole.
our ideas.
Yeah.
But
that's
I
rabbit
get
hole
it, man.
material.
I remember. I think it was for the championship game last year. They had like a little kids fun zone, and kids was getting involved, and that's good for them. But like for adults, man, like I said, it was like some dead spots. I was like, man, it's boring. I was like, okay, the dogs are cute. I don't have nothing against dogs, but just it was getting a little boring. There was, and then not only that, they stayed a little too long out there. So it was kind of, for me, it was boring. I don't know about y'all, but for me, it was boring.
Well, I'm gonna tell you,
so
dude. I'm gonna show you my lack of maturity because I would have been pumped up to see those dogs on the field. So that's me. That's me as an immature, 40-plus-year-old.
Yeah, and it's all good. I mean, like, I love dogs, but I didn't,
Hey,
I wasn't going.
Why don't
to
we
a
try
dog.
to? Why don't we try to get Cormier and Dustin the Diamond to do a fight for halftime? I mean, that's something that I would stick around and say. I
That's
think
what
you'd
I'm
get
talking about.
$35,000 for that.
Man, I tell you one thing. You got like your local, and I'm gonna be real. You got your local artists like Bryson Bernard Cupid, right? He graduated from Northside High School, just like he graduated. Him and my cousin graduated together. Not only that, he went to UL. I would, if I was the marketing department, I would reach out to him, and see what could we do to halftime performance. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this dude, believe it or not, Bryson went Cupid went to the LSU versus Southern game.
I was just getting ready to say that. He loves the other side of the basin. That dude loves the other side.
Yeah, he does. I know he does.
But to be fair, Josh, Southern has been playing his music for 13, 15 years.
Very true.
So credit to Southern to steal a talent we have from Lafayette and promote it in Baton Rouge because we won't do it.
But you see another thing too. What makes bands like Southern or like most of those like the SWAC schools so unique is they bring artists to perform with the band.
Oh, I know the answer to this question. They don't play DuckTales at halftime.
They don't play DuckTales. Though, and not only do they not play DuckTales, they'll play like modern day, like the big hits of today. Get the artist to, and sometimes get the artist to play with them. I mean, which is more entertaining? Now, I think, look, the dog show thing to me, it was unique. It was something we never really seen before. So I thought that was cool that they brought something different in. But I think what, to your point, Nick, is kind of engage the audience. If you're going after kids, go after kids.
But bruh, like, get Keith Frank to play Haters on the accordion while we playing Haters in our band on the field and get some people line dancing to Haters. That would get me. I'm getting pumped
Well, they
up
did
thinking
that
about it.
They did that with
Wayne Toops.
They did that with Wayne Toops.
But that was a little weird because
Dude, Wayne Toops is over the hill.
I know,
Look,
but
I love Wayne, but it's past time. It's
right, but you're talking
get
Keith
little
Frank.
Nate. Get little Nate out there.
Lil Nate, he teaches at UL. He went to UL. Like, that's easy. That's low hanging fruit right there.
Hey, real quick,
that's easy.
What you see the alumni, to see the people that went to UL, Cupid, Lil Nate, all of these guys, they went to the UL, they got followers. And if they say, hey, look, man, I'm going to be at UL, man, I'm going to be performing pregame or, halftime or such and such, those followers is going to come just to see them perform.
Yes.
And I know they probably had, like Cupid, he went to Baton Rouge, to go to because they was playing his song. He probably had his followers to go over there or followers from Baton Rouge to go over there. Man, I just want to see Cupid. And that's how you'll get more fans and fans. Just a lot of fans. You have to, tap those markets, man, those untapped areas. bring fans. I wish I can bring my cousin. Man, but that guy.
I'm leaning on you.
Busy, bro.
I'm leaning on you to make that happen. Hey, JUCO, I gotta move. We got some other things to do. I'm getting hollered at about stats. I'm getting hollered about other stuff. So let me move on. Appreciate you listening. Always love your comments.
Right.
Thank you, sir. Sorry we couldn't hook up, man. As soon as I walk in the stadium, I get Jerry Boomer internet. So there's nothing I can do about it.
We need Cox to help us out with that one.
Maybe we can get some kind of sponsorship. All right, JUCO, be good, man. Thanks a lot.
For sure.
Real quick before we get to stats, Jacob, hang on. We got a celebrity in the house. College football campus tour. Made his way to Lafayette, and he is in the space tonight. Want to give him an opportunity to speak. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Your comments about your experience tonight.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the introduction.
Yes, indeed.
I've gone to, there have been 7 Sun Belt weeknight games, and I went to all of them. And, I saw you guys play at Marshall. I saw you play at Southern Miss. And, this was by far the best performance I saw out of Louisiana. I mean, historically, you guys have been good the last few years, so it's not surprising. But, when you go to these games, obviously there's a trade-off for being on a weeknight. You're not going to get as many fans. You're going to get the exposure on the national TV. So, when you go to a high volume of games, I went to 2 Maction games the last 2 nights. There are issues, quote unquote, that are exclusive to a school, but there are some that are affecting everyone. And so, I went to a West Virginia Thursday night game. They got like 45% capacity. So there's the trade-off to be on national TV and get that exposure. Maybe you're not going to get it, but if it's only one home date and you got the 5 or 6 other home games where you can pack the crowd out, then it's a good trade-off. But, the Sun Belt is, in my opinion, the best G5 conference. It's perfectly positioned for SEC, ACC, spillover, transfer portal talent. The coaches, even down in, ULM has got Terry Bowden. There's Butch Jones at A-State. There's such a huge name value with these coaches. And, the early season wins, Notre Dame at losing to Marshall, Georgia Southern going to Nebraska, App State going to Texas A&M. It's just raised the profile of the conference, adding these new schools. They were all perfect additions. So I really enjoy the Sun Belt. It's my favorite conference. I've been going to games since, 2017. I went to Idaho at Troy. I went to Coastal at Idaho. So I've seen it a lot. I've seen it grow. And, when you get a big game, Coastal last week versus App State, that was an amazing atmosphere. But it doesn't happen all the time. So I'm happy from what I've seen from Louisiana. And hopefully you guys get to bowl eligibility. And, you guys are my family. And I just love coming to Sun Belt games. I live in California. I don't have any connection to anything in the South other than good football and good treatment. So that's my review.
I really appreciate you saying that. If you guys are not familiar with this guy's work, he's been all over the country I can't even imagine. I'll probably ask him here in a second how many venues he's been to, but it's a ton. We follow him on social. How were you treated tonight? How was the overall experience with regard to, just interaction and meeting folks?
It was great. I will tell you, I did not get a response from the athletic communications department regarding my credential request. However, the team chaplain, Eric Truel, I've known him for a few years, interviewed him. He checked in with me before the game. I told him, he ran in the locker room, gave me a credential with a big E on it. And he said it stands for everywhere, right? So you can go everywhere. I always explore the stadium. He invited me to be on the field with the team for the post-game prayer. So I got to do that. That was an honor. I met the athletic director, Mr. Maggart, his wife, his daughter on the field afterwards. And, Eric has seen me. I went to App State during COVID and was 7% capacity there because of the governor rule. There was maybe 1,200 people there. He made sure I got into that place. So the Sun Belt in general, but particularly Lafayette, has always been good to me. And And, I've been there 3 times. The other 2 were Tuesday night games against App in 2019 and 2021. So this is the first time I went to a non-App Tuesday night game, and this was the best one ever as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you so much for chiming in. I'll let you go. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I thought it was worth sharing. And thank you for visiting Lafayette. Of course, we always love to have foreigners or outsiders come and visit, and we treat them well. We kind of take that seriously around here. So I'm glad you were treated well. I'm glad you got to get in touch with somebody who listened to your request. We also have a hard time with that, but that's a whole other story. But thank you so much for coming and enjoying a Lafayette Thursday night.
And hope you ate well, man. Hope we fed you well.
That's right.
Yeah, well, much better than Kalamazoo, Michigan. Let's just say that. So,
shots fired.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to join the space just because I wanted to chime in, and I appreciate you guys reaching out before the game, and when I said I was in the vicinity of the stadium, and you guys are the authority of Louisiana football, and I enjoy following you on Twitter. So thank you for the opportunity.
Man, really appreciate that comment. Thank you so much.
Now that's a shout out. Right?
Oh, we're changing branding, baby. Authority of Louisiana football or athletics. Let's just go athletics.
That's going on the profile for sure.
Yes, sir.
Love it.
Hey, all right. Everybody's hollering about stats. Nick, let's read some stats, and then we'll go to Terry, and then we'll go to sleep because you guys are keeping us late. We were going to do like 45 minutes, but here we are.
Because you guys won't shut up.
I'm trying.
So, yeah, we scored a lot, and Georgia Southern didn't score a lot, and that's our stats. No, Wooldridge tonight was 17 for 31, 193 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He did have that 1 interception, which I'm not going to put on him. Van Trees, 325 yards in the air with 1 touchdown. Rushing-wise, Chris Smith led us 80 yards, and followed by Washington and Williams with 74 and 51 yards each.
They were solid.
They were solid. Yeah, we had 242 yards of rushing tonight, which was unbelievable.
That's coming off of another 200-yard performance last week. I mean,
correct.
We're trending. We're trending.
Correct. And we held Georgia Southern to 72 yards on the ground. Now, again, let's go back to the 358 yards of offense Georgia Southern had through the air. Guess what they didn't do? Score touchdowns. I mean, they scored 2 touchdowns tonight. So when you consider the fact that they threw for 358 yards and only had 2 touchdowns, that's impressive. I would say look, they were such a good third down team this entire season. And we held them for 2 third downs, 2 for 14 on third down. That to me is just
They were at one point number 1 in the country. I don't know if that was still this week, if that was still true this week, but they were number 1 in the country, 56% for the season.
And the fact that they didn't convert a third down till the second half was unbelievable. So credit to our defense again for doing what they did. Complete domination. Time of possession was relatively even. It felt like we held the ball for a lot longer, but it was 31 minutes for us to 28 minutes for Georgia Southern tonight. And then sacks, we had 2, they had 1. Nothing, off the mark on that. But again, it's domination. I don't even know. I don't know how else to put it. We just played a complete game for what I felt was the first time this season. We put it all together, not only offensively, but defensively. So I think that was the difference tonight is we just put it all together on both sides of the ball.
Hey, Nick, average yard per carry. Can you see that? Had to be around 4 or 5. Had to be.
Let me see. Yards per carry.
And also, I think we did pretty well on third down. I know we were 4 for 5 on fourth down.
6.2 yards per carry. But when you go back and look at Washington, he had five carries, average of almost 15 yards a carry. I mean, that's insane.
And Ben had a couple of rip-offs that really big plays when we really needed them. And that goes back to what I was telling Kyle. I mean, we set the edge when we needed to all night long, so credit to the left and right tackle. Ben ripped. I don't think that they had they could not account for the quarterback run. They needed to stay back because he was making the passes when he needed to. They weren't athletic enough on the defensive line, and it was just a bad matchup for him. And I thought
I think they just dared him to run on him, and he took it. And good point. Someone said, let's talk about Kenny. How about Kenny? Five 5.
School record.
5. That's unbelievable.
School record. So, again, when we stalled on third down, we were trying to run away with the football game, he made kicks. Big kicks. Big boy stuff. So, hey, that's special teams had to step up. Complementary football. Play good offense, play good special teams, play good defense. Talked about it early. Cam Podesclo. Amazing tonight. And you guys know anytime I can shout out Cam, I just think he's a mean SOB, and he sets the tone. He's the gritty guy that you need. And by the way, I saw him in person at the volleyball game. He's scary. He's just a scary guy. He looks scary. And he's about as big as I am. So that's even better. So this is my guy. This is my guy. Matt. Nick, thoughts on Matt, a lifelong LSU fan? And then we'll give it to Terry for a final word.
Plead the fifth.
Well, he left the space, so he's not ripping off ideas anymore.
Hey, I'm not going to hand on Matt. Matt's doing his thing, and yeah.
See, they always leave it to me. They always leave it to me to shit on Matt.
I got
Go
no
ahead,
beef
Jerry.
with Matt. Whatever.
Ahead,
Don't look at me. Why are you asking me for?
This is a question from a listener. You got to take it seriously. Let's get juicy. What are our thoughts on lifelong LSU fan Matt Meekin? I'm just asking the question.
Hey,
I didn't write the question.
The man's doing a good job at 103.7. Cut the kid some slack.
The man's living the dream.
Living the dream.
I got nothing. I can't do anything with this because if I say anything, I look like a dickhead.
Yes, exactly.
Stop ripping us off, Matt. I thought the refs did fine. I mean, you can't get worse than Saturday, so I thought the refs were fine.
The refs did miss an obvious pass interference on Georgia Southern tonight. That was, I think it was on Jefferson.
The MJ touchdown in the north end zone?
Yeah, terrible,
Yeah,
terrible. Yeah. But they weren't as bad as the last crew, so I guess that's improvement. I don't know.
See, that's their goal. I think that's their goal.
And also,
be as bad as we can be, and then we are average and we look great.
But earlier in the game, they did not allow our guys to have a defensive substitution, and that ended up being like a first down for Georgia Southern because it was like we had 12 men on the field, because they didn't typically the guy will stand over the ball and give an opportunity for both teams to substitute if offense decides to, right.
Yeah.
But they didn't. He put the ball down, backed off, and we were still coming off the field, and that's why Mike was so pissed, and that led to a touchdown.
That was a touchdown pass, but that was the halfback, right?
They were like, well, I can't get why we're so out of position. And then you listen to the ESPN guys, and they're like, well, they really didn't give him a chance to substitute. Even they were saying it. So if we could see it from home and the play-by-play guy sees it, how come you have a crew of referees on the field and nobody's saying, hey, you didn't give them a chance to substitute? This was on us. So I don't know. That pissed me off. But generally, as a whole, I guess they didn't suck as bad as they sucked other weeks. So good for them.
Wasn't as bad as Sunbelt or Saturday night in the Sunbelt, right?
But what I don't understand is that last season they were decent. Like, I don't feel like I yell every week, but I don't feel like there were as many game-changing non-calls or calls that they had last year versus this year. This year, it's all over the place. I don't know what to expect game to game.
I think some of that's overshadowed with when we win, too. The way we played tonight, I don't know, maybe they get more ignored. I thought the refs called a fair game tonight. I didn't see anything that looked flaky or off. There might have been I do think as far as the matchups between the receivers and the secondaries, I felt like the refs let them play a little bit more. They were a little more physical there. There could have been some calls, but they let them play. As long as you're doing it consistently, I don't mind. Now, if you have a blatant PI on one end and then you don't call it on another, then there's a problem, which I think that's kind of what you're alluding to, Nick, where they have had instances like that this year where there's a blatant call on one side that they call and then they don't on the other. But I didn't see that tonight. I think they were more consistent tonight as far as letting them play.
And on that point, I think we only had 4 penalties tonight.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the total yardage was, but none of it was impactful.
False starts or, stuff like that.
But again, going back to last week's game, you're talking about consistency. They didn't call PI all game. Then all of a sudden, in the most crucial point of the game, they're going to call PI, which wasn't.
Well,
that's the very worst time of
right.
the game. You're going to throw a flag when there wasn't PI. So that drives me nuts.
But the problem with that is it takes away from if you're doing a good job all game long and you're calling a fair game and then you make a blatant call like that, that basically nullifies everything you did for the
But what
first
does it matter?
59
They're not
minutes.
going to get penalized. They're not going to be called out. Nothing's going to happen. So they'll just go somewhere else and suck next week.
Yeah. Well, they just need to be more consistent.
Yeah, I think Jacob just said Raphael Seption had 6. So
Oh,
maybe Kenny didn't set a school record, but he was close.
I think Raphael ended up playing in the NFL too, so he's got that.
I made an incorrect statement apparently, but I don't know if that's right though, because I'm pretty sure I heard that on the broadcast when I was leaving. But
I had heard that he tied a record tonight, but I could be wrong.
Hey, we're secondhand sources, folks.
Hey, it's 12:23 a.m. I don't know anything.
This is RR After Dark after all, right?
It is indeed. Terry, final word, and then we're gonna bounce because we all have to work tomorrow. Terry, hang on one second. I got to actually approve you to speak. See, it's getting late. That's what happens. All yours, T.
Man, y'all got to work tomorrow, man. That's old, man. I got Veterans Day off, so hey, I'm sorry about that.
You know what? I'm calling in. I'm gonna say, look, I'm a veteran. I get off today.
Hey, you should. You serve.
I might.
But yeah, my final thoughts, and it's not even about the game. It's really about the band thing. If y'all listen to Swag Bear and Sprouse, all those guys, pop guys.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like they complain so much about Middle 10 and their band director. And I don't know who our band director is. Like, do y'all know? Y'all honestly know who the
Missile.
band director is?
I want to call him Ivan Missile, but it's not Ivan. It's Ryan Missile. His last name is Missile.
Okay. Like, do you know what pull he has? Because apparently at Middle 10, they have enough pull to tell the Middle Tennessee athletic director, okay, like the speakers are too loud, too low, don't play this music, blah, blah, blah. Apparently they have a lot of pull, and they just let them do whatever they want. Now, I was just wondering if, can we just talk to them and be like, hey, can we not play DuckTales anymore? Like, what can we do to just stop?
See, the thing is, if we thought we came on here and started complaining about Looney Tunes and DuckTales, they would listen. But no, they doubled down. They actually did the same show on Thursday that they did on Saturday.
Yeah, way to go, Josh.
One thing about the pool thing is that we hollered and screamed about the speakers, and they turned them down. So maybe 1 out of 2 is a win.
Okay, and like back and forth with Marcus Marks, the event director guy. Like I've been going back and forth with him, just mentioning him in tweets and him and Maggie. Just seems like he cares. I mean, of course he should. It's his job, but it seems like he does care. And like hopefully next year we can ride the momentum of promotion and everything within the city, and hopefully we can get a better turnout next year. I mean, hell, all I care about is renovating the upper deck. Please, Maggard, give us the answer. I know you got somebody listening. Give us the freaking answer. And if we can just get a consistent 20 to 25,000, I'll take 20,000, right? In a 30,000 capacity stadium. I'm fine with that. I am totally fine with that.
Got to start somewhere. Got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Build it back.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But that's all I got. Thank y'all for having me.
All right, Terry. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. By the way, can I just mention one thing?
Yeah.
Megan losing money. Okay. She's talking about Creole food better than Creole food is better than Cajun food.
I'm from Mississippi. I know that's what I know that's what.
Bro, you putting tomatoes in your gumbo and you talking about nah.
Megan making money is a barstool girl
losing money.
They're trying to stir up people. That's just when you have such a blatantly wrong take. I know who you are. I know what you do. I'm not even biting on that.
I'm from New Orleans, man. So I mean, we're known for Creole food, and I still disagree. No, Cajun food's better than Creole. Sorry.
Thank you. Moving
Megan
on.
losing money.
I'm not buying that. Not buying that.
She lost money and her mind. That's dumb.
Yikes. She lives in like Broussard. It's terrible. I mean, it's
dumb.
Just terrible. Jacob, couple seconds. What you got? Oh, wait. Hang on a second. God. I'm messing up. Go ahead, Jake.
Hey, y'all can hear me all right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Hey, you learn something new every day. I was actually in the Pride of Acadiana for 3 years when I was in college. The current band director is Dr. Jason Missile.
Jason Missile. I knew it was something like that.
Yeah, and then the assistant director is Dr. Brett Landry. They do a pretty good job. I mean, a lot of our focus is like UL, specifically like the music department. they try really hard to be like one of the top, if not the top, music education school, both for performance and like training future band educators. So a lot of what they do is very musically oriented rather than for entertainment purposes, whereas like at basketball games, it's more for entertainment. That's that's the vibe that I get from having been in it. Now, I only was in the band with those two directors for one season because the band director before, Dr. Eric Melly, he came from LSU and he was very serious about like marching band. And I don't know, I really enjoyed Dr. Melly. He and I were pretty tight.
He was awesome. He
transformed the marching band.
Dr. Eric Melly had a lot of pull. Like
he was
in
fantastic.
The room with, like the athletic director and things like that. I don't know. I can't speak on. I don't know the relationship with the current directors and that sort of stuff.
Let me get a little insight on that. Okay, when we wanted to bring the band to Iowa State, they couldn't do it because there was a money situation. I got in contact with him personally and said, hey, we want to raise money for you on Rage and Review. We're going to push a campaign. Jerry, you remember this. We want to push a campaign to raise money. We had a few people already interested. We want to get you guys to Iowa State. About a week later, I didn't hear anything from him, and he just simply wrote back.
It was Texas.
Texas.
It was Texas. Yeah.
Sorry about that. It was Texas.
Iowa State. We had COVID. We couldn't bring the band.
Well, I did ask him about that, but he said COVID said we couldn't bring a band.
Yeah, Texas.
So I emailed him the next year. They had a money issue. They wanted to bring a pep band or something like that. We tried to do a fundraiser. He simply wrote back, we're not interested.
Interesting. I was close to Dr. Melly, liked him a lot. I wasn't very close with these directors, but that was like my last year being in it. My senior year, I wasn't in band. But as for the same show happening as last time, they only practice Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So like putting in a new show after a Thursday game, or like coming from a Saturday into the Thursday game, that would have been pretty difficult.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
But you knew you were going to play Saturday and Thursday at the beginning of the season. So why don't you put in your best performance?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a fair criticism.
But can I give a shout out to Dr. Hockeppel?
I didn't watch any of those cartoons growing up, so as a band member, I wouldn't have been as excited to play those tunes, I don't think. But I remember back in my day, like some of my favorite shows, like Melly would write up like Earth, Wind, and Fire shows, like some groovy stuff.
I'm down.
And they were pretty fun. And also, this was one thing, and I don't know, because I guess my last year was Napier's first year as the head coach, but Coach Hudspeth and like along with some members of the staff and some football players, they like would come out to like at least one of our rehearsals per year, and that really like I feel like there's a disconnect. There always is kind of like that feeling of a disconnect, band kids compared to student athletes, like, the perception on it. But like, we always really appreciated when, we got some love too, So I had an interesting experience having worked in athletics with the basketball program and then also being in band. And then being in a fraternity. Like, I was in a lot of different circles and got to see a lot of different stuff from different perspectives. But, yeah, band is band. Football team played well. Love tuning in as always, fellas.
Jacob, appreciate you as always. It was a good night. Beat the hell out of Georgia Southern at home. Get a little momentum going into play the Fighting Norvells. Guess I'll have to go to Tallahassee now because we might get bowl eligible on the road. So I'm gonna have to start making plans.
How great would it be to beat Florida State when
in the same season that they beat the Tigers?
I knew that was coming.
Oh,
that could really fix
it, baby. We
can do it. That would be awesome.
I'm sending Mike a very long text message about that. Listen, you can really fix some stuff around here just by beating the Fighting Norvells. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Postgame was fun as always. It's always great to win. Thank you guys for showing up a little bit in the stadium. I know the promotions were what they were, but came out to support the team and they responded for you. Good night for the Cajuns. We will see you next week. We have earned a break. We will be taking it. And Nick is shaking his head. He did some video. Like you guys saw, he did some video this week. So anyway, Cajuns win. Beat Georgia Southern. We're on to Florida State. Good night. Go Cajuns.